All right, hi everybody. This is Craft Blend, Heather and Daniel again. We're back for the new year. This is our first time coming back. We took a bit of a hiatus in December, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
we needed that break.
how was your little time off there?
Oh, it was so good and so relaxing and peaceful.
Yeah, it was nice to take time off. The only thing is that when I came back from time off, it was crazy with work and everything. So, but anyways, but we're back, and this time around we had decided for our first book of the year was going to be The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by VE Schwab. Yay! The book was really pretty. I saw a lot of people getting like the tattoo of the constellations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the book was really nice. It was really well done.
Yes, I love it.
Let's see. So yeah, we decided to give VE Schwab another go since I know you didn't really particularly like the one before this one. Which one was it again? I forget.
Gallant.
Gallant, something like that. I think it's Gallant. I don't remember though. Okay, so just a little brief synopsis. You want to tell everybody what the book is about?
Sure. Okay, so it is about a young woman who is bored about her life, and she kind of makes the pact with like a devil, and she gets her wish to come true, which is for freedom. But the attach was there was a loophole within the wording. So it's that no attachments with anybody. So she is soon forgotten. If she drifts, I don't know exactly how it works, but if she drifts from a room, she's then forgotten.
Yeah,
So it is like,
I think they just have to stop looking at her and they just forget her. I really
yeah,
there were some instances where it didn't make sense. Like at some point they were like anyways, well, I guess this is kind of
we'll
too much.
discuss that. Yeah.
So go ahead.
But so it's mostly her origins of that and the repercussions of that wish. And then she meets somebody at a bookstore who doesn't forget her. Doo doo doo. So that's the invisible life of Addie LaRue
All right, awesome. So
with
yeah,
no spoilers.
so that's a little bit about what it's about. So what did you end up rating it? I gave it a 3.5. I know in Goodreads it says 3, but Goodreads doesn't let you do the 0.5. So
Yeah.
I gave it a 3.5. I didn't dislike it. For me, threes aren't bad. I know for some people they are, but for me they're not because I don't really give books fives for the most part. A book for me to have
The
a five,
shade.
it's just the books for me for five have to like fully immerse me. Like I have to read it and just be one with the world, you know. And
Yeah.
lately, for me personally, I haven't had that experience. So, I haven't been trying to give it too little, but nothing's hit a five for me yet. So usually, if it's like a 3 to a 4, that's good for me. It's not a bad thing. So I don't want anyone to think that like it was awful or hated. It just wasn't.
No, you're horrible for giving it a 3. No, joking.
But I do give 3.5s is what I would prefer to give because that's usually a good range for me.
But
That's
that
pretty
will be
high
a
for me.
question I will ask you later because you gave Gallant 3. So what makes it a 0.5 more better? But that we'll get to later.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's my rating. What was your rating?
My rating is 5. I know I'm a basic bitch. No, it's I guess some books enter your life at perfect timings. So since it is I read it like right in, Happy New Year, like it's six January 1st, like right after midnight. I'm like, okay, setting my reading goals for the year on Goodreads and then opening my first book. So I started it. I just really, really resonated with the adventure. And then, I read it at the beginning of the month. So, and I've read about 8 to 9 books after. And then that one is still the highest. So I'm like, oh, so the 5 hasn't gone down for me. I had a little while, 3 weeks for it to sit with me. So for me, it resonated. I love the characters. I really enjoyed the story. It's not perfect by any means, but just, it came in the right place at the right time. I really love it. I would see myself maybe going back and maybe if it becomes a series, but we'll talk about that of how we interpret at the end, how it could continue. But yeah, for me it was fives. It's really it's well worth the read and
Okay.
way better than Gallant
Yeah, definitely better than Gallant for sure. So how
or
did
Gallant.
yeah, whatever. Gallant, Gallant, I don't know.
All right.
How did you hear about the book?
Okay, so we first heard about, well, I heard about it. Well, we were reading Gallant. We weren't really digging it or loving it. And then you were like, I think her most famous one, her most hyped one is Addie LaRue. And I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I was like, you know what? When we were brainstorming episodes for this podcast, Craft Blend Book Reviews, we were like, sometimes we should give an author a second chance, especially that regardless of Gallant, we loved VE Schwab's writing. We love now, maybe not the First Kiss Vampire, canceled on Netflix, but she only gave the rights for that, she wasn't actually writing the episodes. But we loved her writing, so we were wanting to give her a second chance.
Yeah, I heard about the book first, actually before Gallant. And I had heard mixed reviews about it. I heard mostly that it was good. A lot of people liked it. And then, I follow a lot of book review places, and there were some, especially in like the diversity section, minority sections, they discussed a lot of like the issues they had with the book. So I'd heard about the good and the bad with it. And so I had actually heard of it before Gallant, but I wanted to read Gallant because I liked the premise of Gallant more than I did the Addie LaRue one.
Yeah.
But I did eventually like figure I'll end up reading it because what we were saying, and this leads on to our next question, is the writing style. She's definitely got something that is really likable. Her writing style is really nice.
Yeah, it's
Go ahead.
No, that it's just very it's very hard to describe because I'm like basic with my vocabulary, so it's like lyrical, it's like charming, it's whimsical, it's like the only true word I could come up with. It just feels like it flows, not that it rhymes or anything, but it's just very fairy tale, like very like you're just drawn in, like you're teleported. And
Yeah.
that's the best thing you could say.
Yeah, she's very I would say she's very poetic in her writing, very metaphorical. And she has a lot of she has always has a lot of good lines. There's always a line that hits you and you're just like, damn, that was a good line. So her
Yeah.
writing style is definitely up there. She's got good style. It's really interesting, and it's very it paints a picture, which is really nice. It's almost
Exactly.
it almost does it in the way of like poetry. You can imagine her poetry's probably
Exactly.
you can imagine her poetry's just so good with metaphors and similes, things like that. It really does flow in a way that's not rhyming, but it still flows. Very, it's prose like, very prose.
Yeah.
So what did you think of Addie herself and the main character of the story? Like when you meet her, when you find out why she did what she did, what did you feel about her?
I'm like, girl, same. I hate being stuck in this town. I hate having this little life. I just want to go on adventures. So I related to her a lot. Like, it's just being stuck in the same place and all of that. Like, I could see the angst she had. And especially like being a woman at that time, it must have been like severely even worse for her.
Yeah,
So it was like,
it was
so
very
like, I'm like,
hell before she meets the beast.
yeah, exactly. So
Tired
it's
of
like,
living in
girl,
a provincial town. Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly what I thought in my head. I was like, her, like, doo doo, doo doo, because of her and her dad in the car. Very Beauty and the Beast. But
Yeah,
yeah, I really dug too.
I would say she's very like, I was reading, someone had been talking about it. She's very like, she was herself ahead of her time. She was just kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't want your normal life that everybody else had. Her big influence was Estelle, the woman that she meets who lives alone, who's kind of like has her own thing going on. And Addie, I know, spent a lot of time with her when she was young and trying to like learn from her, and she was sort of like Addie's mentor.
Yeah, like that crazy single aunt that never gets married.
Right.
And then, just like that vibe.
Yeah, so I thought she portrayed that experience, at least from what I know of just from history. I think she portrayed that really well. The type of life that a young woman has, where you grow up with your family and you have friends, but then eventually you kind of have to forgo your childhood and your happiness for, having to raise a family and having
Yeah.
to be out of your parents' home. And as a woman, you have very little prospects. You don't have like jobs you can do. You don't have like a lot of things that you can do to get you out of having to.
Yeah. And then not to diminish her father as well, because Estelle is a big influence, but her father would allow her to read.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, or would
I
read
don't
to
remember. He
her.
did something though.
To read to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
He
she had
influenced her a lot as well.
and he would take her into town, so that would spark her too. Like, oh my God, there's life bustling in places,
Right.
and he was an influence in that too.
Right. So then you head into the situation where she's older, right? She's now I want to say she's in her early 20s. And she's been with her
23, I think.
Yeah. She's been with her parents long enough. And now a man has become a widow in the neighborhood, right? And we end up finding out that they're going to basically give her to him because he doesn't have a wife and she doesn't have a husband, and she's essentially going to be his wife,
Which is kind of gross if you think about it.
I know,
23, right? 23 to me is still young,
right?
So to be considered kind of old to marry, that's kind of gross.
Yeah. And then so now she's gonna have to like be with this man that she doesn't care about and raise kids that aren't even her own, to have her own kids and more kids to raise. So obviously Addie is, she's having obviously doubts for her future, doubts for her life. And at this point we've also learned from Estelle that she's, she says you can pray to gods for certain things, right? And so her one biggest warning is don't pray to gods that answer after dark, right?
And after dark. Yeah, I love that line. You see it, so like, oh, I love it.
Yeah, that's one of the favorite lines of the book, and one of the phrases that has been around everywhere, all over social media and stuff like that. So that's when the point comes to her meeting Luke, basically.
Luke.
So
the name she gives him.
What did you feel about the situation, as she's running into the forest to pray to Luke?
Yeah, I was like, oh no, listen to Estelle, girl. Like, I get so nervous with wishes and stuff like that, like even with genie rules and everything. Like, if I were to hypothetically ever meet any of these like magical beings or whatever, like a grant wishes, I'll be like, give me the loophole. Let me read the terms and conditions. I am not saying shit. The fine print, because I would probably never do a wish. I get so nervous, especially with my old OCD Libra self. I'll be like, nah, I need to know things. So but I get her, like the panic she was probably feeling, being, ushered into marrying, a man and stuff like that. And
the desperation, really, about
it's desperation. So it's like, and he got her like the devil always gets you in a moment of weakness. So it's like, and then we have to also realize she's 23. So her mindset, like, she's not going to care about that. She's not thinking of the consequences.
Right. So this is where I got a little confused about how the thing works, right? So that's what I was talking about earlier, where I was kind of like, I get it in a sense, because obviously she basically asks that she doesn't want to belong to anyone. So he makes it so that she can't be remembered. She's basically lost to the ages, right? So not belonging to anyone means no one knows who you are. No one can remember you, so that you can't belong to them in any way, which I thought was a good way to kind of like use that right negatively. I thought that was creative. But the thing that confused me is I wasn't sure how exactly it worked, because there were some instances where she could spend a long time with someone and they'd remember her, but then there were some instances where they just went to the bathroom and they like forgot about her. They turned around and they forgot about her. So that
Yeah,
I was a little unsure of how exactly they either like,
they instantly forget, especially when she
yeah,
like sleeps around.
exactly.
Like how those, like some of them is explained, is like, you know, like the man is so drunk or whatever
Mhm.
that he wakes up in a daze or whatever. Oh,
Exactly.
like, I'm sorry, who are you again? Like it kind of makes sense within it. But I get you, like if in a date they're drinking beers because they're at a bar, you know, women too are gonna go pee. So
Right.
if like they go away and they come back, you know, I try not to think about it super duper duper logically,
Mhm.
because I thought it of maybe if she likes the person that much and she wants to do whatever, she'll like follow him to the bathroom, or like if she really wants to, she follows him, because in that really really awesome first date,
Mhm.
like she doesn't let go of him,
Right, right, right.
you know. So I don't know if it's like, because I get you, because later on in the story, like even like going, not even leaving the same room, but going like away to get a drink and then coming
Yeah,
back,
it would
they
suddenly,
forget.
exactly, yeah.
They
But
forget.
then
So
there were
it's
like
like,
moments where like then she was like at the in that prison, you remember? But and they all like seemed to remember her in there. So and not remember her, but it just didn't like explain how, like what happened when they went to sleep and she was still in there. And like
yeah,
when she went to the bathroom or whatever in the prison or whatever, I mean, was she stuck in one place at that time? Like I was just a little unsure of how all of it worked. Not that it didn't, it took away much. It was just like there were instances where I was just like, I'm not sure what happened there for them to remember her, for them not to remember her. That's
yeah,
probably the only gripe I had with the how it worked, because it seemed to switch from time to time.
exactly. And
Um,
especially that within those lines and everything, it's like, it's magic. I don't know how it works.
right,
I
yeah, like
just, yeah,
conveniently it works
yeah. I was
here
like,
but not
I was like,
here.
okay, Addie,
Yeah,
okay.
so like, so those were probably some things that I had a hard time with just in that. But on that topic, if you had to like live Addie's life, how could you, do you think you could have lived the way that she did?
Oh my God. It's because I would be so scared to give the devil my soul. Like I'll be like, oh my God, because that's the downfall. So
Right, right.
it's like, you know, I seriously don't know, because also one of my biggest fears is like homelessness and
Right.
stuff like that. So to be constantly not having, you know, and I'm, as you can see, I'm a very materialistic. So it's like, because she also can't own things,
Yeah.
like, and oh, it's so like, I wouldn't make that wish in the first place. So
True.
it's like, but yeah, I don't, I think selfishly, I don't know my mind. I think maybe I would be weak enough that maybe I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like
Especially during the war times and stuff like that that
I
she
know.
goes through in Paris and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
was like, uh-uh.
No, for sure. And then that was the other thing that I felt like I was like I just found myself a little like unsure of why she would stay in one spot. Because she spent like, okay, yeah, she experienced certain things, but mostly she spent it in like in France, in Paris, and then like in New York. And I'm just thinking, as a person who now has no ties to anything, like I don't know, that some of the choices that she made just like confused me, because I was like, why would you stay in a place in
Well, we have to go with the time periods too.
mm-hmm.
So like it's 300 years, so it's like from 1700s or whatever till present day, till 2014, I believe. And so like, you know, I guess it was hard for her to travel as much. And then remember, Luke plays with her. Luke is also like, oh, you're too comfortable here. Let me teleport you. Like, it's like, oh, damn bastard, because he teleports her once to start over
I think
somewhere
so. Yeah,
else.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, like, I wonder how she got to New York though, but I think she got into New York by
But that's
ship,
what I'm
maybe.
saying. She doesn't, yeah, he taunts her from time to time, but for the most part, she doesn't have to stay anywhere. She's able to travel. In
Yeah,
fact,
but it's kind of insinuated
she
though
has
that she's
moments.
been pretty much everywhere for
Yeah,
at least a
I know,
small
but
amount of
like
time,
the world
but
is
that she
changing.
loves, and then I like it. But I do love the romanticizing aspect of New York
Oh my
because
God.
I'm an American,
I
so I'm
guess,
like,
but I'm like,
yeah,
I
give it to
guess,
New
I
York.
mean, I guess if you're gonna say like eventually it would get boring to travel the world, I guess it could. I'm just like, I don't
And
know.
then the freedom that New York presents to her, because
But freedom you
it
have,
has all the
all freedom.
cuisines and then all the ever changing streets. I like the way she metaphorically
No, of course. That's not,
romanticizes New
I mean,
York.
that's not really like, obviously that's makes sense, you know. Her again when
Because
she
I don't know if you did you
travel.
have the same like teenage dreams or whatever of New York held high on a pedestal.
No.
Oh, because I did. Yeah, like I still want to visit New York, which I haven't been there yet. But like I have that, so I kind of like that aspect of the romanticizing of New York. So I could understand it. The way she writes about it, like, yeah, but I get you. But it is 300 years and she has traveled. It's because the time it was really hard for women to travel alone. So she writes about that too, that it's hard to like, and then the wars and then all the turmoil for humankind getting the like, so she's like, you know what, I'm not going to the east anymore, I'm traveling west.
But then sometimes she herself would get herself into these situations where she like goes and involves herself in situations that end up getting her either caught or like in place. Like at one point she goes to like she's curious, so she goes to look at some place and ends up getting caught by a bunch of German soldiers, and it's like, Addie, there's a war going on. Like, stay put for a second because you're obviously in a situation where things can go wrong. So I don't know. Sometimes she frustrated me.
No, but do you see, but that's where the book brings that magic loophole to, is that like, not that she has luck, but she has ways in where like Luke doesn't really want her to die on her own.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of has not a vulnerability, but she kind of has like a safety net of things. So I think she starts testing her limits of like, you would test your limits too if you live like 200 years old. So like, I don't know. I suspended my disbelief more with the book because it's like a fairy tale whimsical. Like I was not as like very nitpicky, but I
No,
guess
I
you're
put
more
myself
analytical with it.
no, because I put myself in her shoes and what I would personally do, and I probably would do none of what she did. I guess I put myself in her shoes, and I don't think I would go to the places she went to. It just I don't know. And again, it could just be that she chose VE Schwab just chose to focus on certain places just to kind of get the story going, which I understand. But again, it's one of those moments where I'm just like, if I was in Addie's shoes, like I just don't think I would make the choices she made in term once I've already made the pact, whatever, with Luke. I just don't think I would make some of the choices that she made. But anyways, aside from that, so then we finally get to a place where, well, she ends up having like a lot of like relationships, right, in the way that she can, where she ends up meeting people that she like either falls in love with or just and really particularly enjoys their company, right? There's Sam, the girl who paints, and then I think there's a couple of them that I forget their name. And so but obviously eventually, like, I think that's the part where it really like when she starts remembering her past relationships, I think that's the part where I start to think, like, you start to really consider how difficult it would be not to have those relationships, right? Not to have a connection with another person. Like, the fact that she was able to continue on for so long without those connections is interesting because of how we as humans live. We like
Which is the yeah, but it
connections, like,
explains her love with her father and reading and books. So
what do you mean?
like it describes that, because she's like, she loses herself in books and stories and art. Art is what draws her veins. It's like what, keeps her alive, that it's constantly changing. And I kind of like that as like an, a half introvert extrovert type person. When I have those introvert moments, it is art and media keeps me alive too. So it's like, I related to that really hardcore with that.
Okay. So how did you feel then when she finally meets Henry?
I loved it that we technically had two like polyamorous people, like bisexuals. So it was like, I was like, because remember that like, these are still fresh to me, these type of characters. I didn't have these younger. So I was like, oh my God, this is I so lovable. I loved it. So when she meets Henry, especially in the bookstore, so I was imagining with the cat on top of the books, and then all the because it's within a random corner in New York, like a random alley that she goes down, and she's never seen this bookstore before, and then she tries to steal the book, and then that's when we find out Henry could remembers her. And then I love that we certain parts of the books we switch to Henry's perspective. That was such a super neat surprise. Like I was like, ooh, because I love character shifts, and I'm starting to notice I love like dual protagonists, or like I forgot what the term is called. Like when you have like one chapter switches to another chapter. I think it's not duology. Duology is like a two-parter, but you know what I mean. Like dual protagonists. So I really, really dug that we got little surprises and little pockets of Henry. I wanted more of Henry too, because it was funny because we get so much of Addie at the beginning. So then we get one little scribble of Henry. We get like one little meat surprise of Henry. And then I'm like, oh, but then we go to Addie again for a while. So I'm like, I know, no, I want like I was hoping it would be more equal to both.
Right.
But yeah, I really, really love Henry's introduction, and I love Henry as a character as well.
Okay. Yeah, I felt the same way. I liked a lot of like the imagery that she brings, a lot of like the feeling of just being kind of like she ends up kind of like being just a single girl in New York, and it's kind of what you would imagine that romanticized life to look like. She meets this guy in a bookstore and things like that, but obviously, I thought it was really nice, like the way that it happened, how he ends up like, remembering her and things like that. I particularly liked Henry's life, as just himself, right? Like he's got friends, he's got his estranged family he doesn't really get along with and things like that. And like I did like as well that they switched point of view, so you got to see why Henry did what he did, what kind of life he led before he made that choice with Luke and things like that. So definitely that their meet was nice, and it really tied in, it complemented itself well, right? Like these two characters, they made sense why they were together.
And plus, they're both kind of like anxiety ridden.
But I did have a question here that I wanted to ask. Because of that, did you really think that they loved each other, or was it just a matter of circumstance for them?
I think it's a little bit of both. I really do think it's a little bit of both. But like Addie says throughout the book, and there's a theme within that there's pockets of sections in life. Like sometimes somebody follows you for a season, or sometimes they follow you for a longer time. So I think she just was meant to be with Henry, and it was a different type of love towards the end. Maybe not insanely romantic by the end, even though they do get romantically together. But it was just, that they complemented each other. And then I think it grew to something to be more than just love.
Right.
And, because there's different types of love.
But we do,
because she ends up saving him.
Right.
So there is love there.
But we do end up finding out that it wasn't chance. It was actually Luke that brought them together.
Yeah, when you find that out. Yeah. But that at least their relationship is not fabricated, if that makes any sense. That's what I meant more.
Yeah. No, I can agree. I think that it was definitely circumstance mostly, but then obviously it developed as they get to know each other into something a little bit more. And obviously, if you're meeting Addie as just a regular person, her life is just exciting and interesting. You want to hear all about the kind of life that she lived. So definitely, it definitely was what happened?
No, it was my phone said
Oh,
you have 20% battery left.
oh, okay. So it was definitely something that did, I think, started out one way, became another. And their relationship was sweet. I personally didn't like, I mean, they did get together and they did end up having like a sexual relationship, but for me they were mostly like just like they were like
I don't want to say brother and sister because since they did have
I
sex
was
together,
gonna
it's
say,
like
yeah.
really
I was
awkward
gonna
to
say
say
it's
that.
more like ships in the night where they met each other and they found like a connection with each other, and then it was meant for them to not stay together. And
Yeah, but it
either
could be
way,
like a Dawson and Joey effect, where it really
right,
is kind of like a brother-sister relationship towards the end. Like it's just a mutual care for each
right,
other,
exactly.
you know?
I think that's more of what I felt for them. I think it would have eventually it would have ended that way, especially even if maybe Luke was out of the picture. Those two people, I think they would have been more friends than anything else. Which brings us to like Henry and why he did what he did. Now, like looking at his life and everything like that, like how did you feel about learning that he was suicidal and he was like, and he made this decision with Luke because the person that he loved didn't want to be with him?
Yeah, it hit hard. It was very, very, very sad. And it was like I kind of like it that the male character had the suicidal tendencies, just because, when we look at graphs and all of that, men tend to be like, so I was like, wow. And then it is beautiful, not the suicide attempt, but kind of like that it's in the roof of a building and then Luke appears, like if we're riding and everything, it just looks very like I could see the light bulbs of the city and like I can imagine it well. So it's just like, you know, I can understand why Henry would be in those random mindsets. But the thing is, he does go through a lot of anxiety. So he doesn't really like, he thinks he gets too much into his head. It's like, girl, breathe in. You have a tomorrow. You could start again.
So I won't lie that this relationship with her and Henry and how it goes is probably where I found my attention waning in the book.
You know what's funny to like juxtapose with you? You know which relationship I was finding more tropey and more like, I. It's like how funny that you find it with because you're female and I'm male. I find I'm like, oh my god, the girl with the bad boy and the devil and falling for the devil and falling for Luke. So that's the relationship. But you continue first to see how you felt with Henry, and
Well,
because it
no,
might be the same feelings I felt with
I
Luke.
was I was generally talking about the whole middle section. Her and Henry, her and Luke. These two relationships kind of bored me. And for me personally, this is where I get my 3.5 rating, is because I did find myself losing interest between both of the relationships.
It could become trophy. I understand that.
Yeah, I didn't particularly enjoy it so much. I was just like Henry, with Henry, it wasn't a bad thing. Their relationship was sweet. It just for me got repetitive. Like, I get it, you're sad, you're alone. I get it, you found someone. And then
Sorry.
it's fine. It's just how I felt. I'll just be honest with you. It did get a little.
I just hate humans.
I just got a little like, I get it. Like, it was just, it was just one of those moments where it could have probably done with a couple of like a couple of chapters where we didn't have to talk about this.
No,
But
I really love them both,
but
her and
then
Henry at
her
least.
and Luke, I was like, oh,
Those
man,
are the ones. Yeah, those
are
are
we
those like
gonna like, is she gonna
I'm
fall in
like,
love with
Addie,
that
bitch.
guy?
Addie, you
Yeah.
really gonna jump on that devil boat? Like, what is wrong with you?
And
I
then like,
can't.
but then like, out of like with all of the other things he'd already done to her, like, come on, Addie, you knew he wasn't like a good guy.
Yes, but what kind of like, first of all, it's the mentality and the psychologicalness of like, that's the only person that can remember her. And that's the only person she has a
Stockholm syndrome
constant.
herself.
Yeah, it's Stockholm syndrome. You Beauty and the Beast again. But so I could understand it. And then what kind of makes it win a bit is that the ending, it it depends how she ended it. But since she's like gonna bring down Luke by getting closer to him, that's why I think a sequel, maybe it's not needed because it could just be insinuated forever. But it would be cool to like see Luke's downfall with her, and her, you know, finding a loophole to try to get out of the spell again.
Mm.
So I could see she takes her own power, even if she's still in the guise of giving him power. I think she's going to topple him down. I think it's just like the same with Henry and stuff like that. She does kind of love him, but not really. She'll have that grudge forever. And I feel like she doesn't 1000% love Luke. I think she's just like, he's a demon creature, you know.
I get
But
you.
because she even says it after she has sex with him the first time, she kind of doesn't like it because it's like he's very cold and very, like, so she likes the warmth of Henry. So it's like,
I don't
you
remember.
know,
But yeah, okay.
yeah. So maybe I don't think I think it's a power dynamic with at least Luke. That's where I find it justifiable. Now, if this was in a different author's hands, maybe this relationship wouldn't work as good, and maybe it would have made us even more mad if she like really did fall in love with Luke and really did like, like. But it
I
is
mean,
that power
yeah.
fantasy.
Well, she did kind of fall in love with him. It just was,
Oh, and then the funny thing is that Henry and Luke look alike, no?
yeah.
Because
Mhm.
that's also insinuated. So
Yeah,
it's
like
like,
they have
okay.
a bit of a resemblance, yeah. But I think that like the thing about it is that like Lucas has kind of at the center of all of it, right? That meeting, the whole situation, he's at the center of it. They're getting together. The relationship that she built with Henry is always going to be kind of tainted by the reality that Luke set this up. And like I think what does help the scene with Luke and her falling in love with him is that she eventually like, you know, she still has a side of her that is still closed off to him, right? Like she still wants to find ways to kind of beat him at his own game. And definitely like that becomes kind of like the point towards the end and just with Addie is to just like, it's just like a competition with Luke throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, so that's probably like those between those two relationships. I did like Addie and Henry, like I said, and it was interesting what happened with Addie and Luke. But I don't know. I think that's where the book kind of for me started to wane for my
Yeah,
interest.
there was I do completely agree. Even with my 5 stars and saying it's not a perfect thing.
Mhm.
It's just, remember, with me and my ratings, if it lands the front and it lands the back, the end, like I'm more, giving to that sense,
But
you know.
I guess no, I can understand you. So you did like the ending because I didn't.
Oh no, I didn't. I did. The
Right.
only thing I kind of like, they did a bait and switch. I was a hot mess. I was actually crying because I really thought Henry was gonna die, and I was like, oh my god, he quits again. Like I fell for it. So I kind of hate that, like bait and switch of like, the heartstrings and getting us to like to have it. But then I was like rooting for her because I'm like, oh, she found a loophole. I'm like, get his ass. So I liked it. I liked it. But I get what you're saying. The middle, it meanders a bit. And then I think it's because there's maybe too many too many Addie flashbacks, but they are important to overall like establishing things, but maybe we could have had less flashbacks because that's where the pacing issue I found. I actually wanted opposite than you. I wanted more Henry sections because I felt like Henry sections weren't enough. So I felt like Addie had too much origin build up. That's the critique I would give. And I actually think I didn't give it 5 stars now thinking about it. I think I gave it 4.5.
No, for me,
But it's still 5.
I didn't dislike Henry's flashbacks. I actually liked those just fine. It was just like it was such like a they were just stuck there. We kept going back and forth with Addie and her flashbacks, and then once we got to Henry, it was like a kind of like it just like you were saying, it just went on for too long in certain instances. But at the end of it all, whatever. That's just a personal thing for me. It didn't really take away like anything horrible. It wasn't anything horrible about the book. It was just how I felt about it. But I didn't actually like the ending. I got the ending and I get it. It is kind of like a middle finger, but not really. Because now it's just like I'm gonna wait for him to not love me anymore. To like, he'll basically find out like, oh,
I get you. It is there is a hint of sadness to it because we don't know if she's gonna get her revenge. But the thing is, like seeing all of VE Schwab's things, like Vicious and then Shades of Magic. She does series. No, I haven't read them either. But I noticed she does series. So I'm like, maybe we're gonna have, the next one, the death of Addie LaRue. Maybe that's going to be the duology. We don't know. We don't know because I don't think she's announced anything. But like, the reason I wasn't too harsh on it is because I felt like maybe there's going to be more. And I'm always a horror for and hunger for more. So it's like I'm going to be like, but I get you. If it was a one-off, let me go with you. If it was a one-off, I still like it. I don't love it, but at least it still gives us, I still believe it's a nice enough middle finger that at least, because she still saved Henry and she still got remembered. It's like there's like triple dominoes. She got to be able to be remembered. She got a book written over her. Henry remembers her. She's still getting sex with Luke. So like, and then she's eventually going to bring him down with her loophole because he's going to get tired of her. And then his like, loophole within his own self of wishing so I found it at least satisfying. But I could understand though that you maybe wanted more of a I get you.
Actually, to be frank and to be real, I mean, this is just honesty on my end. I'm not really sure what I wanted, but it wasn't how it ended. Isn't what I wanted. So it could just be more nitpicky on my end. But I mean, it's fine. I really don't dislike it. Like you said, I didn't dislike the book. I read it and I actually got through it and I enjoyed it, and there were times where I listened to it just fine. And I didn't I didn't feel any negative feelings towards it. It was a good book. And like I said, her writing style in general adds to that, just listening to her writing, it really makes some of her books. So it's even something that I liked from Galan or whatever.
Yes, we loved it.
It's her writing style is probably what really hits you the most.
What hits you? Yeah, that's why we needed to give her a second chance.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna give her a third and fourth. Like she's becoming one of my I'm liking her a lot. The next one I want to check out is Vicious, which I need to rent soon or purchase.
Yeah, so they the story itself.
I've converted into a fan.
Yeah, I mean, I never disliked her. I've always thought she was a good writer. I've never read her books until this last year, but I've always heard of VE Schwab and I have read shorter stories of hers. But she's always had the same kind of writing style and it's always been very appealing. So that's definitely something that she has going for her that'll always probably call me to whatever she's writing next. So, but those are just my gripes. That's personally why I gave it a 3.5. I did find the middle to be a little boring. The two relationships just kind of got, and then I personally didn't find satisfaction in the ending. But it was still, aside from that, I think it was well done enough, right? Especially like just Addie herself, the kind of life that, I mean, I did connect fully with her at the beginning of not wanting a regular life, of not wanting to have to be this man's, you know, like to have her own life. I mean, I think that's true for a lot of women, especially nowadays, to be in control of
Yeah.
their lives. And that's something that definitely hits you. And Henry's situation, I found him a little melodramatic with wanting to kill himself. But you know, I can kind of understand it too, with so many relationships that were failed him, and like that failed, and that people stopped loving him. I can understand where it can get to you to a place where you're like, damn, is it me? You know, am I the problem? So I can kind of.
Oh, you quoted Taylor Swift. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. And so
It's
like,
me. I'm the problem. It's me. Sorry.
no, it's fine. So like I could, even though I found him a little melodramatic, I did understand that part especially. And you know, especially with Henry, like when you get to see like his life, right? Like with his parents and his siblings are these like amazing people, and like
People, and yeah, exactly. You
yeah, so
really
you can
feel for
kind of
Henry,
understand it.
and
Yeah.
it's a different type of male character, you know, other than him being bisexual and everything. It's just a different, like, we usually get the dashing male who saves the day, but this time it's Addie who saves the day. I like the differences in that story. I just really dug that.
Yeah, that was really nice too. Um, so this is just a funny question, just to see what you would pick. But which one of the curses would you rather have?
It's because that's so that I don't think the forgetting one. It would be the second one. It would be the second one. It would be
Having everybody
Henry's.
love you?
Yeah, yeah, because I'll be like, Heather, you know, can I have $7,000? Good money, like, you know, and it just. But then I get you though, having like, when you really love me, because I do like that banter of disagreement, and you know, I love people having different, you know, opinions and point of views.
Yeah.
So so being always loved might be a little, it's tough, but I'd rather have that. But the thing is, do we still have the penalties? Oh, then I
Oh
wouldn't
yeah,
choose
it
that
would
one
be the
because
curse.
we die
Yeah,
in a
you die
year.
after a year. Yeah.
Oh no, I just thought of, wait, would I rather live forever or die in a
But
year
see,
having everybody.
okay, but see, this is why for me, doesn't make any sense. Because for me, I'm thinking, okay, you remember, okay, this is, I always go back to Harry Potter, you know me. But you remember in Harry Potter when he hides from death and he lives this beautiful life hiding from death until he's tired. And then he eventually gives himself over to death. That is what I picture of Addie's life. That's why, for me, it didn't make sense because I'm like, wait a second. I now have the opportunity to live as long as I want, meet whoever people I want. I can do whatever I want for as long as I want to until eventually maybe I don't want to anymore. And then I succumb to the thing that I said I gave my life for. I told the guy, yes, right? I gave the demon the option. You
Yes,
can
but the
have
thing
me.
is, it's because we don't know what taking the soul entails. We don't know if he like owns her and it's not really a real death. Like, I don't know what that entails.
Yeah, but eventually,
So that's still
but that's
scary.
life. But that's life, isn't it? At the end of the day, you don't know what happens when you die. If you were to die, say tomorrow, knock on wood, you don't, right? But if you were to die tomorrow, you don't know what life is. A chance that every one of us is
Yes,
being
but
alive.
girl, that's the devil. You don't fuck with the devil.
But it's a chance all of us take just being alive. We don't know what's going to happen on the other side of things. So even if I were to have just died because at that moment before I killed myself because I didn't want to be with that guy, I don't know what was going to happen at the end of my days, at the end of that lifetime that I had.
So
You
you would
don't
choose
know.
Addie's. So
I
you
would personally choose Addie's. I think that I would eventually have, if I got to the point where Addie's just living in one spot and is no longer interested in life anymore because it's suddenly boring for her, I think I would eventually just be like, all right, like take me. I'm done. I've done everything I wanted to do. I've traveled the world. I've visited all these beautiful places. Why would I not want to do that? Why would I stay in one spot? And why would I even I just, for me, that doesn't make any sense. That's the part
yeah.
where I was like, I don't get it. And like for me, like I said, yeah, I mean, the eventuality of death is that we don't know what's gonna happen. So God, like it doesn't matter. I don't know what would have happened either way. So for me, it just, I don't know. I wouldn't have
Yeah,
it the way that she did, I guess.
yeah. I guess I would choose her just because a year, to me, a year is way too fucking short.
Yeah.
So if we didn't have the consequences and it was just a base wish, the wish itself, I would choose Henry's. But since we have the consequences, Henry's is not flattering at all. So I would choose Addie's.
You would just choose to be loved until you died.
Yeah, until I died. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. I mean, I definitely use it in the way you had thought to use it, but the thing is that Henry didn't like to do that either. He yelled at her because she like didn't pay money because the guy was gonna.
Oh, but that's Henry's stupidity. Me, I'm like Aladdin girl. I need to
Eating
I
that,
need
and
to get I need to steal to survive. I'm willing to do that. Like,
I really
no.
I was like, this pissed off about she can't like save anything. Nothing is hers. So even if she ate it and stole it, it's not. It doesn't even stay with her. Anyways, aside from that. So, all right. So, any like, I guess this is pretty much like the end of it. We talked about a lot of things, and we both gave reasons why we really liked it and why we didn't, like it too much. But so, you have any last thoughts? Any last things you want to talk about?
No, just pretty much, we're VE Schwab fans now. And yeah, we're willing to do other books and stuff like that. So now she like won us over. Like it's not like we're gonna kill her. So like,
So you
that
would
was the
recommend this book for sure.
yeah, no, for sure I would recommend it because it gives beautiful discussions and then anything with life lessons and makes you appreciate life more. And especially, like I said in my own Goodreads review, it's just as a perfect January book because when we do our New Year's resolutions and you know, we get stuck in that limbo during January, February that we like the beginning of the year. I don't know for you, but it's always like a lull for me. And it makes me very self reflective of life. And, we're 1 year closer to death. So it's just like,
I get too busy at the beginning of the year, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah, for me, it's the opposite. The October, November, December is super crazy busy that I can hardly speak and shit like that. And then January, February, March is where I'm slow and into my thoughts. So for us, it's opposite.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I definitely do think a state of mind is have to be achieved for this book. I think it's definitely more of like a slower book, gentler book. And like you said, it requires you to kind of reflect a little bit. And I think if you're not in that state of mind, it might.
Yeah, if you're not in that
it might change exactly. It might change the point of the book. Maybe if I was in a lull myself, it would have been different. But I didn't dislike it. I would recommend it as well. I think that if you enjoy these kind of like almost like slice of life kind of stories, what happens in her day to day, this, with a little bit of adventure, I think it definitely hits the mark on that. I did want to talk briefly just about, I don't want to talk about it at all, honestly, because we're, regular, your average Joe white Americans. But there wasn't a conversation about it being very Eurocentric, which I think is important to kind of bring up. However, I don't really want to talk about it because I feel like it's not so much something that we should really like fully discuss. But what I want to do is in the box at the bottom of the YouTube thing, I'll add a couple of videos of people that I saw talking about this part and people who obviously are not, who are minorities and things like that, who would have a better conversation than we would about it being Eurocentric and it being focused on that kind of aspect. I think one of the people that we watched, Cindy, I believe is her name.
I love her. She's so crazy.
She did one. She did one, and I like the way she talked about it because she spoke kind of about the fact that it was Eurocentric, but then also why it was Eurocentric, and she goes back and forth with it. I think she does a cool job of kind of like relating what the experience might have been for VE Schwab to discuss certain things that happened in the past that maybe for this it wouldn't have fit in with this story. And what would have been the reason why she wouldn't bring certain things up, and so I'll link that.
I get you because living that long,
exactly, you would have seen some things, but at the end of the day, I feel like other people did a better job discussing that, so I'll link them down below so everybody can read that and kind of look at those and see what they say about it. But alrighty, I think that's it for us. Our next book is going to be Love, Hate, and Clickbait.
Yes, our Valentine's Day.
Oh, the author, because I forgot to write it down.
The author? Oh, I do not remember, girl, and I don't have the book physically. I haven't read it from the library.
Okay, Love,
But
Hate,
yeah,
and Clickbait.
yes, give credit, group credit.
Okay, so the book was written by Liz Bowery. So Love, Hate, and Clickbait by Liz Bowery is going to be our pick for the month of February, the love month. And yeah, that's going to be our next book discussion. So let me know how you guys felt about the book. What did you guys think about it? What kind of feelings did you have about all of the characters, about Luke and Addie and Henry? And, you know, let us know which curse you'd pick and which one
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully you guys will see us in the next one.
Yeah, join
Thanks,
us.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.